All right, everyone, it's just ticked over to 12 o'clock, so we might start to get the ball moving. Hopefully, we have a few more attendees join along the way. Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the beginning of the CAS 360 New Zealand Education Week. Thank you very much for being with us today. My name is Nicholas Moran. I'm the Client Success Team Manager here at BGL. Still the morning out here in Melbourne, but we do realize it has ticked over in the afternoon for you guys. So hopefully we're not disturbing anybody lunch break. Feel free to sit back and have some whilst you're watching along. Uh, for today, in terms of our Education Week and our webinar that we're hosting, there is a couple of housekeeping rules. You are all in listen-only mode. You can still ask questions throughout, just because you can't use a microphone, that is a-okay. To do so, if you just go to the Zoom panel and select More, there is a Q&A option. You can move that window around your screen and send your question into the Q&A box and simply click on Send. Either myself will answer the question. We also have quite a few team members sitting in the background ready to go to answer any of those queries. So if I'm in the middle of talking, please do feel free to send that question through and we'll indicate to you whether that question is being answered in the Q&A box. Also, this webinar will be recorded. We've put a link in the chat box, which is different to the Q&A box, for the recording to be uploaded to, that you can go and watch this afterwards, either for yourself if you miss any part, or for any of your other staff members that you feel may benefit from the watching the annual return processing webinar. This is the first one kicking off the week, so no pressure, but we do have quite a few others coming on throughout the week, including our CAS 360 alerts, the AML and CDD processes, and linking that with BGL ID, some of the managing of share transactions and dividends, and then finally our name reservations and company registrations, all at 12 p.m. New Zealand time each day. So if you haven't registered already, please do feel free to come along. We'd love to see you there. Similar to the questionnaire and the chat box function, it's just linked in there as well. So feel free to have a look and sign up. This is part of our grander, I guess, education month, you could say. Probably not as applicable for our New Zealand clientele, but if we have any Australian firms coming along today that are managing any New Zealand companies, if you'd like to check out our BGL suite and options, feel free to investigate. We can skip over that now. Let's go on to the agenda for today. So today we're going to be discussing everything annual returns. Basically, for our agenda items, we're going to be looking at our options that we have available to us. That is probably the main benefit of CAS 360 when it comes to annual return processing. The main reason for that is you have a lot of flexibility with New Zealand annual returns, whether it's sending them out to clients, filing them directly to the company's office, whatever it may be. And CAS 360 wants to accommodate for all of those options and give you the flexibility to be able to manage your annual returns the way that your firm would like to. So we're going to discuss lots of different options and lots of different scenarios. If there's any clarification throughout, please do ask questions about it. We'll also be looking at how the actual process will look in terms of from production of that annual return, whether you're doing as a singular annual return or in bulk, as well as how to manage that moving forward in terms of filing that off to the company's office, potential reminders to send out to your clients, so on and so forth. And at the end, I'll be sitting in the session for any questions that be sent through. As mentioned, you can always shoot them through the Q&A section throughout as well. That's all good and well that we've capped off our agenda items, but it might be best to actually jump into CAS 360 so we can start discussing how to process your annual returns. So our annual returns just located via the returns button here, and we can see any company that has an annual return due in our system. The alerts webinar that we're going to be covering tomorrow has some functionality within this screen as well. We can see that we have the status, which is essentially the annual return alert being in the due month, any sort of upcoming annual return for the next month, and more importantly, any annual returns that had their due month passed. We also have some features from the main screen, including our labels. So we're able to filter out certain annual returns if we want to categorize them together, as well as our comparison report, which is essentially the health check alert just being brought through to the annual return screen. You don't need to know too much about the health check alert right now, as that webinar will cover it, but What this is essentially indicating is there is data on the company's office, there is data in CAS 360, and is there any sort of mismatch of that data between the two systems? The reason why this is important for our annual returns is this will be what's reflected on the annual return document itself. So if you do have a failed comparison report, it isn't going to prevent you from processing that annual return. You can still generate, you can still send it out to your clients, but it may be worth making note of that it is technically different to the company's office database if there was some sort of failure in that comparison report. We've also added recently, in actually our most recent update, the filter columns icon as well. So when we click on filter columns, we can actually adjust what columns we would like to be displayed on our annual return screen and basically indicate which information is relevant to you. This is a per user feature, so your own login can have your own setup in terms of columns being available. Therefore, you just get the most relevant information for you without any affecting anybody else's work. In terms of bringing and producing an annual return, we can simply select our Prepare Documents button. When we do so, we're brought to our document production screen. This is where we will produce any form that can be applicable for the annual return process, and we can see we have up to 4. We have our cover letter, our annual return, our solvency resolution, our extensive shareholding list. The extensive shareholding list will only be generated for companies that actually require this. So if I went and selected another annual return and there was only, say, 2 shareholders, this form wouldn't actually generate. But because I picked a larger company, this has automatically been produced in the document pack. Naturally, though, you have the ability to adjust your totals as to which information you would like and which forms you would like in your document pack. You have all sorts of options and settings when producing these forms. So for example, under the annual return document here, I can go to my options and I can see I've selected myself as the form signatory, but we can also select anybody else as the form signatory for this particular firm. We can also preview the annual return document just by clicking on the blue dotted line. And sure enough, we can see the details of that annual return and all the necessary company information that we'd like to be sending out to our client. This is the general template that's already in CAS 360. This is something that can be adjusted as well. So if you'd like to add your company logo, would like to adjust some of the information that's being pulled through on the annual return, I'd highly recommend checking out our template section. There's all sorts of help articles about the templates, but we also have our support functionality that you can ask any questions about whenever adjusting your templates within CAS 360. Not only do you have your document templates that can be adjusted in this screen, but you also have your email template. So if we were in a scenario where we wanted to send this particular document pack out to my client, under the email options tab, we can see that it's currently using the digital signing annual return template that we have set as our default option. So this is one of the ones that we created, but you can always use the master or any other ones that you have created along the way. Digital signing is yet another aspect of this whole pack. So we have a digital signing integration set up in this scenario. We understand that not everyone will, and that is okay. To adjust the digital signing aspect, under the electronic signing options, you can go to your signing provider. We have ViewSign set up here. And sure enough, I can set this to none if I have a client that isn't going to be digitally signing this particular document. I can click on Save. And we'll notice that this little ink pen icon has now grayed out, and this indicates that digital signing is no longer active for this annual return that we'd like to be sending out to our client. Any additional forms that you'd like to upload to the pack as well, you're more than welcome to do so. And you also have the ability to then download that if you're sending it out separately from CAS. Otherwise, the send all functionality gives us the option to send out this annual return to our client. Anytime we click on send in the CAS 360 system, we have the option to preview that particular email template. So that was the one from our email options before. And we can have a look here and we can see, all right, is the information in this email template correct? This, for example, is an outdated database. So we can see we've got 2021, probably not so relevant. So I could adjust that year accordingly if I needed to with the template being used. And I can send this out to my clientele accordingly. as an email with the documents already attached. And we can see the annual return documents have been prepared. If we'd like to add a new signing contact along the way, there's all sorts of prompts for you that basically help accommodate for the next time that you prepare your annual return. The Berries Galore company contact is updated. The annual return for the Berries Galore company has now disappeared, as is now being produced on our document screen. We're going to go into the document screen a bit later. We'll stay within the annual return screen because the documents is where we're going to manage any annual return that has been sent out. If there was a scenario of utilizing that digital signing integration, I also want to show you what that looks like on your client end. So I've previously prepared one. So let's just say I've prepared a digital signing pack and my client has selected the review documents button inbuilt to that particular template. We can see I've found one for Mary just before. She's received this email. She can select the review documents option. And what we have is our annual return for this company here. And I can start signing. Sure enough, I can see the necessary company details about this particular company. I'm going to give this a quick skim. Sure, looks good to me. I can start signing, sign off on this right here. And we'll sign that off. And the bundle has now been completed. We're going to see this in a moment back in CAS 360 once this has been pushed through. Let's go back to CAS now. And hopefully that one will be come back by the time that we move to our document screen. That's what producing an individual, I guess, annual return looks like. You're not limited to only that scope though. You can prepare multiple at the same time. Under this option here with our select, we can select the whole database there, or we can select particular companies. We do recommend at least beginning with one to send out so that you're a bit more familiar. You can also adjust a few more settings in terms of those options there before going to the bulk processing. But once you're comfortable with the system, moving to bulk processing may speed up your annual return processes. For example, here, I'm going to select these two options and I can prepare the documents to be sent out to our clients here. Yes, they both failed. It gives us a warning of that comparison report, but we're happy to proceed anyway. As we can see, we've got a very similar screen as to what we had before, except as mentioned, a few less options. We've got our template that's being used, our particular document pack that's being used, and yes, we want digital signing active for these particular ones. We can deliver this by email. We can see who it's going to. We get a preview of those recipients of our annual returns. We can proceed and check if any of those annual returns are to be reviewed. What that review means is that you can basically get someone internally from the company to check whether the annual return that pack that you're sending out to your client is all correct. So this could be useful for someone that's maybe just starting, or if you've just got your own internal process where all sort of document entities are being reviewed prior to being sent out. For example, if I selected that for an individual one of the flag documents to be reviewed, and I selected my reviewer email, we can select any individual that may be doing so. I might just select myself here as it's a good, I guess, transition to the document screen. It looks exactly the same. We've got our send all function. We've got our preview. We can see this one now has the digital signing integration active with that review documents button. And sure enough, when I click on send, rather than it going out to my client, it will actually go to me first. We can see that this little documents icon now has a 1 next to it. And if we go to our notifications, we'll see not only has the documents for the scenic flowers come back, but you'll also get a new notification shortly to say that there's some documents to be reviewed as well. And that will go to my personal email address to say you have documents that need to be reviewed. Let's have a look at that now. Sure enough, there's our documents review tab. We can see that CAS 360 limited docs that I have recently received. I can go and review those docs. I can see the forms that were prepared. I can see the email that was prepared in my personal email address as well. So you have all sorts of optionality in terms of what's actually being generated in our annual return review. This looks great. I think this annual return is all ticked off, but maybe I did want to prepare a solvency resolution, or maybe there was a cover letter that needed to be included here. So I can leave a message to the preparer, aka myself, please include cover letter, and I can reject this document. Not only will that pop up, it will give a notification as well saying that it was rejected and who it was rejected by. And sure enough, if I click on view in my notification bell, we can now see the annual return that we just prepared a moment ago, us reviewing that internally before it even went out to our client. And we can now see that that review has failed on this particular day. In our document screen is where we're going to be managing all of the annual returns that we have processed thus far. We can see we've done quite a few. So we've got our annual return documents that we sent out individually. We've got the one that was reviewed that was failed, and that one that we notified before where we did that digital signature, what it looks like on your client's end. And we can now see that that view sign document that we just signed in the webinar here has now been pushed back into CAS 360, and our status column has updated to indicate that. Under your options here, in the attachments, we can actually see that now signed document. So we can see not only the annual return itself that we can preview, but also the view sign, in this instance, I guess, itinerary, suggesting, okay, this is who created the particular document bundle. This is when it was signed. This is when it was opened. So you've got an audit trail about this electronically signed annual return that you've processed. If you, for example, with our Berries Galore one, we just sent it out to our client, we know that it's not going to be a digital signature. What you can do is go to your options here, go to our attachments once again, and you can upload any files that have been sent back to you, such as that now signed annual return. So you can upload this into the attachment screen, and sure enough, your completed document pack has now been done just by uploading that into the bundle. As you can do with the view sign adjusting by itself, for any sort of manual adjustments to the status column, simply select the status option there rather than send to client. We can now say, yes, it has been signed by the client. It was signed off today. We're happy with that. And now this has been updated for this particular. When we go to file this to the company's office, all we need to do is select the lodge option. So when we click this, it'll put in your authorized agent that we have sitting in CAS 360 in the settings screen, and we can file this to the company's office just by selecting that. And sure enough, that will go and be processed on the company's office. Oddly enough, this one, given it's not a live license, it was one from 2021, it's going to let me know that no, this is completely wrong. Why are you filing this? And sure enough, as quick as that, we just saw that in what, 5 seconds to that be done. It keeps you updated as to what if that's accepted, rejected. You get notified of that in the notification bell and in your main screen. So there's so many different optionality with your document screen and what you can adjust about it. Some other options that you have when you're generating the document packs includes the delete option. So what this will do is move it back to your annual return screen as if you never processed it to begin with. For example, this reviewed failed. So what we can do, we can go delete. Yes, I am sure I want to delete this document for the CAS 360 Limited. And sure enough, if I go back to my main screen, it'd be really disappointing if it didn't actually show for this particular one. There it is. Our CAS 360 Limited company has now been brought back to our annual return screen for us to re-prepare. As we saw, it got rejected. It wants to include the cover letter. So I can go ahead and start to re-prepare that document pack with the cover letter, get that internal review once again, and get that approved and sent out to my clients. With any document that you're preparing here or any setting that you've adjusted as you're preparing your annual returns, they actually save for the next time. So we saw that I sent one out for review. This flag documents to be reviewed was automatically toggled on for me to select again. So any setting that you have, including the document order in the pack, including which forms that you have turned on, will be the ones that are saved for the next time you're preparing an annual return as well. The final sort of options that we have with this system include in the annual return screen itself, where we can see that we've got options regarding the annual return in terms of the mark as filing and mark as filing not required. So the mark as filed indicates that you've actually already filed that annual return yourself. Maybe you've done it separately through the company's office. I can do so. And what that'll do, I just need to enter in the annual return date for that, click on save. And sure enough, it's now left my company here and it's moved back to our document screen. The other option of mark as filing not required would be that if this particular company has done it themselves on their end, and we can see these two companies have now moved from the 2020 year to 2021, and our Hub Life Secure from 2021 to 2022, basically processing the next year for those old annual returns that weren't completed in this license. You can also do this in a bulk manner. If we do our select option once again, we can see our options, mark as filed, mark as filing not required. You also have the ability to export the comparison report between the company's office and CAS 360 database, or even import the data directly from the company's office to say, yes, I would like to update any sort of potentially mismatching information if need be. The final option that we have, if you are in a scenario where you're actually not sending out your annual returns to your clients, but rather you're going to file it right away, we do have that option as well. It's this option up here, the orange button, Lodge Annual Returns. So let's just say I select these two companies that I'm going to automatically file the annual returns for. I can select two, I can proceed, and we can see we're brought to that same sort of lodgement screen that we had from beforehand as well. I can proceed accordingly, processing this particular request for our lodgement. And sure enough, these two particular companies can now have their annual returns filed for, and we can see whether they are accepted or rejected in the notification bell. If I go to my document screen, as mentioned before, this isn't exactly an active license. There's some old annual returns sitting in here, so quite a few are getting rejected. I hope for your sake that you're getting plenty of approvals, but we can see these have automatically been filed off to the company's office. You're not limited only by that aspect though, as we once again have our options here where we can send document reminders. This is applicable for even if you're just wanting your clients to, say, complete the signed document pack at an earlier stage. But this is a good option for if you are filing it automatically without even, I guess, notifying your clients right away. This send document reminder can give you the ability to add an email template into the system that says something along the lines of, we have automatically filed your annual return. Here it is. Here's the thing that document that we filed to your to the company's office as your agent, and if there's any sort of updates or changes that need to be made to it. Sure enough, I can send that off to Aram in this scenario. We can see if there's any issues, please email me. And by doing so, this gives your client still the opportunity to see, does my annual return require any amendments or adjustments along the way? If that were the case, you could then go back to your option of deleting this particular annual return, going back to the annual return screen and re-preparing it accordingly so that you can make the necessary amendments for that annual return that has been lodged and filed to the company's office. That, everyone, is annual returns in depth. I know we've jumped around a lot. There's a few different screens. There's a lot going on. But I'd like to think that there's plenty of options and plenty of scenarios that we can accommodate for, whether that's sending that out to your client, having the reminder option as well to tell them to maybe get a move along with those annual returns, the digital signing options in terms of getting either those forms digitally signed or non-digitally signed, and who you can select your recipients to be. Your document screen is where you're going to be managing all of those annual returns. Each company has their own annual returns, has their own document screen, but you can do it in this global document screen instead. You have the documents review tab that's also available to you, and the notification bell that's keeping you up to date as to if anything has failed, if anything has been completed and signed. All these sort of notifications along the way that keep you updated as to what is going on with your annual returns and what they may or may not still require. That's everything that I was hoping to the other day. Yeah, we've prepared our individual annual returns, we've prepared our bulk annual returns, and we've managed the sent returns in terms of reminders or filing those off to the company's office. We once again really thank you for your time and appreciate you taking the time out of your day to pay attention and listen along. I hope that this has been useful, that you've learned something new about annual returns. If you haven't, feel free to come along to our future webinars. We're going to be teaching so many different things throughout the week, and we highly recommend you come along. Once again, we'll be sitting in here for the last 5 to 10 minutes anyway. If you have any sort of questions, you do have that Q&A box available to you. Otherwise, we really appreciate your time and thank you once again for being here. Have a lovely afternoon.